And we're back with Legends of Arcadia Genesis. You are in the tunnel, in the cave, sand at your feet, pushing past one outcropping of rock past another, till you come into this well-lit room. The source of the light has got to be this hole in the ceiling, this like just spot that cuts up through maybe 20 or 30 feet of rock. There doesn't appear to be any canopy above you. There must be some sort of rocky outcropping outside that there's just this rocky shaft in which light flutters down. Occasionally, maybe a tree will lean over and block the shaft a little bit, giving you some variation in the light as it shadows and lightens.
Sure.
In the middle of the room, there's like a little sandstone pedestal with a stick on it. It has some runes.
Do I see any sort of creature in here?
Just yourself.
Okay. I'm going to peer around the corner to see if there's anything waiting behind the door for me. I guess there's not a door, but like the entryway.
Yeah, there's nothing beyond the portal.
All right, I'm gonna slowly creep into this room, take a step inside, look around, see if anything happens.
No, the pedestal is maybe 15 feet from you. It'll take you another 5 steps to get there. But for now...
Okay. I'm gonna inspect the ground in front of me. So how, is it like smooth and flat? Is it really rough and rocky?
It's about an inch or so deep with sand on top of rock.
Okay. I'm gonna move around the edge of this room. Going, I guess, counterclockwise. And I'm gonna go about 90 degrees into this room, following along the wall.
Your very careful movements will give you plenty of time to notice that as you come into the room, and there's always like a little bit of something like sand or dust falling from the ceiling, but you're noticing there's like this mound of sand that seems to be growing in size very slowly right in the entrance where you've passed from. Okay. It's almost as if the sand is like being drawn towards one area a little bit and kind of rising slightly.
Sure. Okay. Well, in that case, I don't know if this is just supposed to seal off the door or if that's some kind of sand elemental. So I think what I'm gonna do... Okay. I'm going to unbuckle one of my sleeve pockets and like pour all of the multicolored sand into the palm of my hand so I have it at the ready and don't have to fumble around with that. And with the spell component in my hand, I'm just going to break and run for the pedestal, grab the stick, and try and dive out of the door before the sand can block my way.
All right, you go for the pedestal, you got the sand in one hand, you grab the rune stick, turn around, start running back across. It's not a big chamber, but the sand has definitely taken some sort of form. And it hasn't risen to block your way, but you can see that it's like stretched out along the ground in a humanoid shape.
It looks like it's not trying to seal the door, right?
No, it looks like it's some sort of creature, some sort of humanoid person.
I'm going to stop and color spray it.
All right. Color spray the sand creature.
And then I'm going to trust that it worked, and I'm going to jump over it and run out the door.
That is not a solution I was prepared for.
Yeah, it's weird because it doesn't have eyes, but it probably does see.
It does, and it's not mindless.
Yeah, well, it's not a mind thing. It's if it has the ability, if it has vision, right? If it has, not necessarily like ocular, but like vision, then...
Yeah, like it wouldn't hit undead, though. It wouldn't affect a mindless creature. It wouldn't hit like a golem. But it would
well, it
hit
wouldn't hit.
this.
I don't know if it would hit a golem, but I think it would hit a zombie, probably.
Well, either way, this is not one of those things. And you are second level. Do you at least stun What is the
worst case scenario? I would stun for a round. That's like the weakest form it could possibly take.
I think you're
unless
right.
It does get a saving throw if it's higher level than me, though. So like the weakest form is that it's stunned for a round. The second, the next one to be blinded for D4.
Well, it does have 3 hit dice. You are second level.
Oh, okay. So it's gonna be better than that. Let me check what it is for 1 hit die above.
Blind or unseen creatures not affected. Creatures not. Those with hit dice 1 or 2 levels greater than the wizard are blinded for 1d4.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll give them a saving throw, which is a fail, and if it's blinded, you will not provoke attacks of opportunity as you
I'm just gonna
quickly
jump
scramble over
and
pass.
Run away.
Well, there you go.
So if this is some kind of sand elemental, I'm gonna run out of the cave. I assume like with D4 rounds, I can probably outrun this thing getting out.
Yeah, no problem.
I should have those rounds.
Yeah, and it was prone, so you have even more of an advantage, and it's blinded.
Yeah, and it's blind for 4 minutes. Yeah, so I'm gonna run out of this cave. I'm gonna get off the beach and like wait. I'm gonna go around my like pitfall trap that's back in the woods, and I'm gonna wait there for a little bit. And I'm gonna see if like this thing comes out. And like if it chases me out, can it go out of the sand? Like, is it a full earth elemental or is it just like some kind of sand creature?
It doesn't chase you out. It completed its mission. I don't know how you want to call it, and it does not pursue.
All right, cool.
Yeah, there you go. Bob's your uncle.
All right, and now it's just about. Did I get rough directions to that one orc encampment, the clan that Oh, I have notes on them. Let me check really fast. He was from the Pinkskins. The ogre. I think we killed him. His name was Onimusha.
I don't know if you've ever seen anything other than their forward like sacred spot where they did that.
Right. I haven't seen it. I'm wondering if he gave us any kind of direction. Because I did tell him like I was interested in like visiting his clan, right?
Yeah. You only have like the vaguest idea that it's somewhere in the first few miles of the first hex or 2 of the forest.
Okay, then I'm going to head back and I'll head along like the perimeter of the forest essentially and look around for an orc encampment. And I guess we'll have to figure out which one I run into. And as I'm going, I'm going to try looking again for plants I can turn into some quality drugs.
You move through the forest for a couple of for like a hex or 2. Hold on, you did 5, 10. You're going to only be able to go about here before you'll have to rest for the night. So it'll take one more day in the woods.
Sure. So we'll go back to the good old cover the donkey in bushes and climb up a tree.
Yeah. Oh, that was rather anticlimactic. Wizards, huh?
I mean, that's how you survive as a wizard, is by being as anticlimactic as possible, especially before level 5 when you get like fireball and lightning bolt.
Mm-hmm. Ah. 6 on the encounter die. Oh. You come across a Phacophalosaurus, or a small herd of them. These are the bipedal, herbivore, maybe omnivore dinosaurs with the kind of bulbous and yet ridged and sort of flat heads that they use to smash into people. They're the metal heads of the dinosaurs, the ones that attack via just bashing you with their face over and over and over again. And they're omnivores. And you come across a herd of 6 of them, and they're kind of chomping, and one of them is popping up and looking around, and then pops back down and pops up and looks around and sees you as you start walking through the forest, and gives out a "Arr!" And the others all like pop up and look around, and soon all 6 of them are staring you.
Okay. You know what? I probably don't need rations for that much longer. This forest is pretty plentiful with like food and stuff, right? I'm gonna like grab the rations from the donkey's pack, right? I'm gonna grab most of. I might take like a couple out just in case of an emergency and put them on the back. But I'm gonna take out the sack of most of the rations. I'm gonna like open it and like unravel some to show the food. I'm just gonna like pour out the whole sack a little ways away from me.
Yeah. You toss your food on the ground. One of them will trot on over and munch down on it. The other ones will kind of keep their positions. They've got these like bony like points coming off of their nose and this like big rounded skull with little spikes coming off of the sides and the back, so things can't grab them from behind very well. And they keep a pretty close eye on you as the other one comes over and starts like munching on your snacks.
Yeah, and when it goes for the rations, I'll just take a nice wide berth around them. You know, head in a different direction.
Yeah. They watch, but they keep their distance. That doesn't appear like they're particularly aggressive right now. Just keeping an eye on the weird thing that comes by it.
Sure.
Yeah. All right, and you move past them. You find yourself a spot in a tree. You leading your donkey? You didn't leave the donkey tied up to the tree the whole time, right? The donkey came out to the river and back with you.
Yeah. I probably tied it up when I went into the cave and then untied it when I came back out.
That's all reasonable. You can find another nice spot to rest for the night and wait till morning. In the evening, your donkey probably fine. Yeah, just some more herbivores nearby. And the next day, you go looking for an ogre camp. Oh, crap.
Yeah, just kind of zigzagging through the woods a little bit, trying to stay within the first few miles.
Yeah. You're looking for signs of ogres, and you're near the river as you walk, and you will eventually come to what appears to be a man-made pool of some sort of kind. The rocks have been repositioned in the river to kind of create like a little soft inlet area where the water doesn't flow quite so quickly, and there's a little bit of a beachhead here, and you can see the large footprints of ogres. This looks like something they must have created to make an easy spot to pull water from, or maybe a bathing place or a laundry place or something. But in the sand next to the ogre footprints are larger prints, larger bipedal, three-toed dinosaur prints.
Interesting. Okay. All right. I'm gonna follow those. So I guess there's probably a lot of prints, right? If there's like a man-made pool of water, they probably come to this regularly for drinking water. I'm gonna look for like where it seems the bulk of them are coming from.
Are you talking about the dinosaur prints or the ogre prints?
The ogre prints.
Yeah.
Because I figure they're probably coming from a camp would be my guess.
Yeah. Do you have tracking?
I don't think I do, so
I would like you to make me a non-proficient tracking check. It'll be a d20 plus half your perception score, which we don't have, so it's half your wisdom score.
Okay. I think my wisdom is okay. Let's see. Basic wisdom is 13, so 6. No, not quite. Close, but I'm a little off.
Yeah, you can follow the tracks into the woods. The undergrowth gets kind of thick, and you'll find yourself losing the tracks pretty quickly.
Oh, should we do another herbalism check for along the way, by the way, to see if I found any good plants to harvest?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, that one will do it.
Oh, a 29. Excellent. Yes. You can come across one of these. I brought up a list just for this occasion. You come across some leech love. No, not leech love. I'm sorry. This is. Where is it here? You come across some dream root. These are hallucinogenic mushroom types. It's a fungus. They call it dream root anyway. And supposedly, these mushrooms will induce a hallucinogenic state somewhat akin to a dream, where you have like a sensation of being somewhere, but everything seems sort of far away. and you're liable to suggestion's not the right term, but you're in a non-standard state of consciousness that is often akin to a dream.
Nice. Okay. I collect those, bundle them up, put them where my rations used to be.
No one's gonna make that mistake. What are you gonna do about the ogres? You can't seem to follow these prints anywhere. You lose them once you get to the thick undergrowth or these areas where their prints don't sink deep into the earth.
You know what? I'm gonna shout out in ogre and be like, "Hello? Is anyone there?" And then I'm just gonna kind of wait in the area. If they this is a water source, right? They probably come here semi-regularly, so I'm just gonna wait around. Maybe every once in a while, half hour or so, I'll shout out, see if anybody's nearby.
All right. You wait by the water source, shouting out. You will see various woodland creatures coming by, a little bit downriver, a little bit upriver to drink some water. Some deer, maybe a bear cub at a. After a while, probably on towards that late afternoon or evening, you do indeed hear the sound of lumbering giants, probably ogres, on their way to you.
All right.
It sounds like
I'll just
pair.
I'll be waiting by the water source, like not blocking them from it, just kind of off to the side a bit.
Yep. A pair of ogres arrive carrying large vases over their shoulders, and they are chatting in ogre. You've picked up enough to kind of follow the conversation. It's just complaining about having to carry water and how this is, not the work of a warrior. And then they pop over a hill, and they both stop and blink at you. As there's this person.
Waved, and I'm gonna shout in ogre like, "Hello! I've brought a cup. Offering."
One of them puts down their vase and grabs a section of nearby tree and struggles for a moment to snap off a still living branch, and then takes a moment to kind of cleanse it of its side branches so he could use it as a weapon if he needs to.
Yeah, I say, I'm not well, I have a dagger, but I broke the point of it. Look, I'm not here to do battle. I came here to share drinks.
They exchange an uncertain glance, and one of them calls down, "How come you speak ogre?"
I learned it about 2 months ago.
That's not long enough. You
Pretty
can't
good.
learn ogre in 2 months.
I speak a few languages. If you can speak a bunch of you pick them up faster every time.
They bobble down to the riverside, confused by the non-threatening human who is offering them drinks, or something. One of them carries a stick, the other carries a vase, and they come and look at you, looking down at the person half their height.
Yeah, I say, really, I need to speak to your chief. What do you call your person in charge?
Chief.
All right, I pull out a book and I write that down. I say, I need to speak to them about this, but I guess you could try a little if you want. I'll pull out one of the bottles.
They sniff the air. What's that?
It's moonshine. I made it myself. It's alcohol. As a warning, one of us might go blind if this is the bad bottle. Might. I don't think I fucked it up that bad. It's possible. But, I mean, that's part of the fun, right?
Why are you not afraid?
Yeah. I could spend my whole life being afraid about this, but the reality is I need to come into this woods and I've got work to do here, so it's easier to be friends than enemies, you know?
Your calm, cool, collected nature has really thrown them for a loop. One of them will come up and take the bottle that you offer. Confused, he's used to stealing things from people, and here you are just offering it.
It's not
and will sniff it and sip it, and hand it over to the other one who will sniff it and sip it. And the one with the stick will like plop down on their butt and go, boo. Bares his teeth. Shows you all like the yellow pointed ogre, chompers. Puts like a hand up, and your head would fit in the palm of his hand, almost, not quite. It makes like a threatening, crushing motion.
When he like bares his teeth, I'm like, by the way, you eat a variety of things, right? And I like pull out the book. I'm like, yeah, you'll eat animals and fish.
Uh-huh.
And then you also do fruits and vegetables.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I just kind of like check mark that bit in my notes.
They have failed their morale check, so they're not, in this case, necessarily like, they're thrown, I guess is what it is. The confusion sets in, and one of them says, "What you called, huh? What you go by?"
My name is Kael.
What you want ogre talk?
Well, I have been given a mission to learn about this forest and all the things that live inside of it.
Why? Sounds boring.
I guess. I don't know. I guess it was what I was made for.
Well, we in charge. This is our forest. Humans supposed to stay in, not in valley. It's also our valley. You go beyond valley.
Well, so here was the offer that I wanted to make. I guess I have to give it to your chief eventually, because he'll be the one to make the final decision. But I wanted to stay here for some time and live amongst you. And in exchange, I can offer you this alcohol, which I can make more of at not any time, but regularly. I have some plants of the hallucinogenic variety, and I have the know-how of how to acquire more. I was hoping we could just have a really good time, and I could also use you as a source of information so I could learn more about both you and the rest of these woods.
You need to see Chief. This is too much.
Okay.
The ogre rubs his head.
Do you
Picks
want
up
help
a
with
stick.
that water, by the way?
Help with water?
How big are the containers that they're carrying?
They're large. They're probably like contain 3 or 4 cubic feet of water. Probably weighing a couple 100 pounds when full.
Okay, so a couple 100 pounds when full. I can't carry that myself, but how many gallons is that?
Each cubic foot is...
Or how many cubic feet would it be? Sorry.
It's like 3 cubic feet.
Okay, so
feet.
I offer to... Yeah, I can't carry that, but I'll say, just fill one of those partially up. I'll help carry the heavier one, and then we can. I can make more water when we get back to your camp.
They fill up their things one part way full. They seem to have no problem.
About a third. They only need a cubic foot in there.
Yeah. They can carry the water on their own, and they'll just hoist the vases, and they'll bring you deeper into the woods.
All right.
And sure enough, you will come across an ogre village here. They've made kind of like what do you call them, log cabin style structures, and the 2 ogres you've seen here are clearly the like runts and rejects of the group.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of bumbling and foolish, and a little bit bony and scrawny. You come into the proper village, and you can see the ogres here are a little bit more sharp and with it. They are covered in various forms of war paint and are practicing combat skills in a series of arenas in the middle of the village.
Okay. So I've got companions who fight in a couple of different styles, right? What are they more like? Like we've got June is more of like a swordsman, right? And then we've got Iswal, who is kind of more of like your typical. I guess Iswal's a cleric, but more of like your typical fighter type, right? Like the has an array of weapons and fights very practically and doesn't just focus on like one weapon as almost like an academic art. What kind of approach are they taking with their training? Just out of curiosity.
These ogres seem to be working on sort of like dueling techniques right now, like one-on-one individual fights using spears. Long spears or glaives.
Okay.
Yeah. And you'll see that they all have red and black war paint on, and there's what appears to be the leader, a ogre sitting on I want to say throne, but it's a little bit more like a lifted lifeguard chair that like sits up above the rooftops so he can like view all around, but it's also sort of throne shaped, but you got like climb a ladder to get up there. So a lifeguard throne, perhaps, is an appropriate way of calling it. The leader has various horns that have pierced her face, his face, D6 face, her face, through the lips, through the cheeks, in the ears. She's got a glaive that sits in a little holster on the side of the throne, and her skin is either entirely painted red or tattooed red, or she's just got red skin. But it's this like, not quite crimson, but like a deeper red coloring to her all over the place. Her hair comes back and then splits into 3 different braids hanging down behind her, and she wears a necklace of looks like small skulls, too small to be human skulls, or maybe they've been boiled and shrunk or something, but some sort of like necklace of 6 skulls.
Okay. Are they roughly humanoid shaped? Okay.
Maybe they're like gnome or halfling or human baby or something.
Oh, they could be dwarven.
Dwarven, yeah. Aren't
dwarves and ogres like natural enemies or something?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I'm close to her at this point when I get this description. Like they're leading me to her.
Yep.
All right. I'll approach and I'll stop a good distance away and I'll give her like a pretty simple bow and say, I presume you're the chieftain here?
She will hear you speaking, be a little bit surprised, and pop down off of her high chair with just like a leap and a thud down below and stride on over to you. The other 2 will drop to a knee in front of her and say to Ogre, "Oh, Chieftain, we found this guy down by the river. He's really different. He brings us booze and wants to know about the forest."
Oh, by the way, Neal, I don't know if I mentioned this yet, but now that we're out of the immediate situation with the stick, I want to keep that inside of my robes, not in a bag. Maybe like in an interior pocket, because I know my jacket has all kinds of weird pockets in it. Okay. But the goal is like it's along the torso, right? So that I could like elbow myself sharply to break this thing, or if somebody hit me with a club, that might break it. I want it to be in a position where it'd be relatively easy to break, and also like away from my other equipment.
Okay, so maybe like tucked in an interior pocket of the jacket, or like strapped between you and your belt, or something like that. On your side.
Something like that.
Okay, yeah. The chieftainess, the feminine of chieftain.
I would just go with chieftain.
Okay. The chieftain dismisses the others with a wave of the hand, leans on her glaive somewhat, and I guess you didn't take a knee.
If they take a knee, I'll follow suit.
Okay.
I open with a bow, and then I like make a point of noticing that they take a knee instead, and I'll copy in kind.
She motions for you to rise, and says in a less foolish voice, "Who are you? Why are you here?"
My name is Kael, and I came here with an An offer. Sorry, I learned the language recently. I might be a little bit loose with it.
I am Onikuma. You have come into my village.
I see. Which clan is this?
We are
I
the
don't
Red
know
Ogres.
most of. Sorry?
We are the Red Ogres.
I see. I'll probably pull out my book and like jot that down. Like I have a list of clans, right? That so far only has the pink skins, and I'll add in the red ogres. And I look at her and I say, I came here with a strange offer, but one that I think will be of benefit to both of us.
She waits patiently for you to continue.
I have been tasked by people who have nothing to do with this valley to learn as much as I can about both the interior and exterior of the forest and all the people that live inside of it. And I'm to document this and bring it outside of the valley sometime in the future, within the next year. So, obviously, the outside of the forest is easy enough for me at the moment, but the interior of the forest, well, I can't really make any progress if I can't come in here without making enemies of all of the ogres. So, I gesture back to the donkey. I brought booze, I brought drugs, I've brought all kinds of offerings, and I can make more of these rather plentifully. I was hoping that in exchange for food and shelter here, you would let me live amongst you for a time, perhaps a few weeks. I could use it as a period to learn more about this forest and your people, document it for my research, and then you can have the booze and the drugs, and we can have a really good time.
So you're a spy, here to learn our ways.
If I am, I'm not a very good one. I mean, I get I understand that frustration. What could I learn? You don't have to share war plans with me. And as far as, I mean, I don't mean to sound, no offense intended, but this isn't. I think if I went back and said your people train for war, nobody would be surprised.
She nods. Your people are our enemies. Why should I let you view our way of life? Why should I not kill you on the spot?
Well, I was hoping to stay away from that. Frankly, I have very little vested interest in this conflict, but if you want to dive into it, do we have to be enemies?
You have killed members of my tribe.
Yours have killed members of ours.
Okay, so we left on the 17th. You got to your house on the 19th, and then it was how many days? Then you would have, let's see, your house on the 19th, 1, 2, 3 days through the woods. 1, 2 here, 1, 2 here. Well, I think we are on the 23rd of March. She will look to the sky, look back down at you, and say, our goddess, Rossi, bringer of death, has left the mortal plane. Perhaps it is a sign that we should entertain you now that she is gone.
That's all I ask. I don't ask to be privy to your secrets. More surface level things, simple way of life. You don't have to share your war strategies or anything else you consider confidential.
And you will answer questions on your way of life, your people?
Yes.
Sit with us. And she motions to a spot on the ground near one of these pits, one of these like fighting circles. The other ogres have all stopped their combat training and are watching this exchange.
I'll grab one of the bottles. I'll grab the same bottle of moonshine that I gave the other ogres, because why not? And if she has any kind of like cup, I'll pour both of us a drink.
Yep. She takes your drink, waits for you to take a sip of yours before she takes any of hers, and then will sip at it a little bit. She doesn't seem too interested in drinking heavily, but she will politely sip a little bit here, and then tell you to watch, and she will return to her high chair.
Yeah, and I mentioned like I'll avoid interrupting people during the day when they're working. I'll save it for like the evening, right, when people are taking a load off and relaxing.
Yeah.
And I'll just watch.
Well, how long would you like to stay amongst the ogres? You have arrived the day after Virasi has finished leaving the world. They have taken that as a sign to not destroy you. How long do you want to stay?
I guess a few weeks. However long it seems like I'm getting useful information for the paper, right? So I'm gonna like, get what I can about like ogre etiquette and like how they what they like standard ogre lifestyle, what they do during the day, how they like congregate at night, all kinds of things about like their social behaviors and their kind of like societal structure. But then also I'm gonna see if I can leverage at some point during it to get like escorts into the woods to like study the woods further.
Well, they do send out regular patrols that will go hunting for food, and you can go with these patrols. It appears that they typically prey on the large herbivore dinosaurs of the area. Triceratops appears to be some of their favorite, although is one of the more dangerous meals to go after. There are ankylosaur type dinosaurs, heavy armor, big spiked or studded tails that they can use to crush into things. These are a little bit easier because you just got to hop on the tail and then flip the dinosaur over. That appears to be one of their main sources of food, in addition to the deer and the bears and anything else that they can get their giant ogre paws on.
Yeah, and like whenever they get a kill, right? In like the immediate aftermath of that, I'll use that as an opportunity to stop for a bit and study some of the plant life around there as well, and like harvest some things because I'm probably going to dose myself with all kinds of weird plants and study what their effects are. So I'll go with those patrols, and then at night I'm gonna share any drugs I find with the ogres, and we're all gonna get very drunk, and I'll use metamorphosed liquids regularly to create more moonshine out of water.
They all seem very excited about the alcohol and the booze. The dream root mushrooms or any of the other hallucinogens or narcotics that you can find, they seem to treat with like a distant reverence, like we understand what that is, but now is not the time. You will gather actually give me an intelligence check for what you can piece together, and then a charisma check for what you can draw out from people that you can't otherwise.
I do pass the int check.
Unsurprising, but woo, that was narrow.
Yeah. And then you said charisma? Charisma's not my good stat, so let's see how that goes. Nah.
Okay. So you can quickly piece together things such as the ogres are highly superstitious. There are signs. There are obvious warnings of when you should and should not do things. For example, one time they go out for a hunt, but then they pass a tree that has like this red sap running down it, and they stop and they look at the sap and they decide that this sap in this place on this tree is a particular warning against hunting today, and so they come back and everyone's just like a little hungry that day, and the whole tribe goes without a meal for a day, or a day without a meal, and then there's a couple weeks later, a new meteor appears in the sky, and the main ogre that you spoke to earlier, Ogre Onikuma, says that she must go consult with the sage is the phrase that she uses. Okay. And she will leave by herself towards the mountains.
Okay. I ask if this is like a private affair.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the ogres will tell you that there is a sage in the mountains that they seek whenever the signs are unclear. A priestess who lives very near to the entrance of the valley, but just like around the corner on the mountains. And it is the priestess, the sage, the wise woman, needs to be approached alone, and the location of her lair is like not for you to know. So the lead ogre will head off on her own to go seek wisdom from this woman. She'll come back and let the tribe know that it is Womator, one of the foolish childs of the gods that has arrived in the world, one of the their mind is not in the right place in the right time. It is one of the gods that they need not follow or listen to. This will repeat itself again a couple weeks later when Nerul enters the world as well, goddess of hearth and the home. But this time she will come back and say that Nerul is here to bless our people, to bless our encampment, to keep it safe from those who would not be here. And for them, this is a sign that you have stayed your welcome. And on the arrival of Nerul, when she fully enters the world on the 20th of January, February, March, April, is when you must depart.
Okay. Yeah, I'll pack my things up and get ready to head out. And I'll come back to the chief before I go and say, perhaps think on what I said about this, our conflict not needing to be destined. Maybe we don't have to take the valley from each other.
The valley is ours. As much is very clear. It was ours from our goddess, and we have taken from it what we need. We have crushed the resistance that we have faced, and if resistance should ever mount again, we will crush it doubly so. The valley is our birthright.
I don't dispute your claim to it. I simply want to make it known that perhaps sometimes cooperation is a better alternative to competition. And I'll give her another, I guess, bow, because I wouldn't kneel since I'm departing. And then I'll head out.
Yeah. Is there anything else? I mean, your character will have notes, but is there anything of those notes that you would like to know right now? It looks like you've spent 1, 2, 3, 4 full weeks with the ogres.
Yeah, if we're going to be fighting with them, I marked the red sap as a potentially useful thing. I'm going to keep all of these like potentially exploitable weaknesses to myself because I don't really want to abuse that confidence. But if there are other things that might be useful in a pinch, I would like to have those jotted down. Like, because we could use red sap, right, to like demoralize ogres if we were ever in the woods. And I'm going to like make a note of things that we could potentially exploit, but I will keep those private and maybe even like encrypt them in my notes.
Right. So the first thing that you find definitely is the superstition. Like there's a sign for everything. There's a sign whether to do something and a sign when not to do something. But you'll also find that they are very. They don't really have a concept of pranks or jokes. Joking comes off as like you're tricking me, you're trying to manipulate me, and that doesn't go over well with them. So they don't really have humor, they don't have fun, and if they feel like someone is trying to trick them or manipulate them, they get violently aggressive in response very quickly.
Okay,
so that's probably good to know. Else would you have learned in 4 weeks? You barely passed your int check. You failed your charisma check.
Did I pick up anything on why they didn't want to take those drugs? And in the period, did I get like different responses? Because I would have been harvesting other things that could have been used as drugs, right? So did the responses vary based on like the kind that I offered or brought up?
Not really. There might be, mild differences that are probably dependent on the particular ogre at the time. But it seems that these are sort of like sacred items to them. That the dream root that you have found has some sort of association with their wise woman in that cave. And there's some sort of ceremonial purpose or mystical purpose to these things that they avoid outside of their intended usage.
So it might be used
the alcohol
for
isn't anything that they make their own. They don't have any sacredness around this because it's a foreign thing to them. They're down with the booze.
Ritual use of the drugs. Okay. Yeah, and with that in mind, I'll probably leave the bulk of the drugs that I harvest there with the chieftain, and maybe take a little on the side for myself later, just when I'm hanging out at the house with nothing to do. But for the most part, I'll leave most of what I've cultivated for the chief to do with what she will.
Yeah. Perhaps more to your interest, though, are the other things that you see when you're out with these creatures, when you're out exploring with them. You will come across 5 types of dinosaurs. We've talked about 3 so far: the ankylosaurs, the Pachycephalosauruses, the Triceratops, but there's also Allosauruses and Tyrannosaurs around here. The Tyrannosaurs are the rarest, Allosaurs are uncommon, the herbivores are all fairly common creatures. You'll also have, of course, there's ogres in the woods, and there are giant spiders in the woods. These things you don't run into and have been fine so far.
Sure. So there's tyrannosaurs in the woods. Nice. I guess whenever I hear about one, I'll as Sean the person has a rough idea of what these things are, but Kael will probably ask them for descriptions and details on what the different dinosaurs are.
Yeah. And you'll actually get visuals on all of them except for the Tyrannosaurs.
Okay. Yeah, and then the Tyrannosaur is probably just going to be some, wild story that Kael comes back with.
Yeah.
And then I do also want to know, what do they do for, fun and recreation? We mentioned they're very straightforward and they don't really do jokes. But, what, people have, a thing that they do to, wind down and, have fun at night. What are, their common sort of recreational activities?
The ogres?
Yeah. We saw them playing in the water in the first episode, and that was a thing. But what are the common things that you would do when you gather around a campfire at night or something like that? Because we all get drunk. Do we just tell stories or
So they have very ritualized eating habits where the meal for the whole village is brought, and usually it's just roasted meat of some kind. Maybe some vegetables and fruits and bark on the sides. And then there seems to be a ritual distribution of the food, and then you wait for a certain the chieftain to start, the chiefess to start, and then there appears to be an order in which each person can proceed, and you can't start until the person above you in order has started.
Okay.
And this ritual eating of food, the whole doling out of the plates, waiting till everyone's got some, then the waiting for the person ahead of you to start, it's just it makes dinner take a lot longer of a time frame. And then there's lots of bathing in water, resting in these large ponds, covering themselves in sand baths, or rubbing each other down with sand. They don't really seem to have much in the way of entertainment or socialized fun. It all appears to be a little bit more strict, regimented, almost ceremonial. Even the bathing, there is a beginning to the bathing process that is semi-ceremonial, and then everyone can just hang out and splash around a little bit. I guess the closest thing to fun would be
sparring
or sport games, throwing things back and forth. But they don't have an organized rule get the ball in the hoop 5 times. It's more of just here's a rock, we're gonna chuck it back and forth in a semi-combat, semi-playful way.
I think at one point Kael will try introducing a sport that he knows and see if it catches on.
No, they hate it. No,
Okay.
the arbitrariness of it, it's why must we get the ball between these two things?
Sure.
For what purpose? This seems weird. This seems just arbitrarily meaningless.
Okay, sports activities. Okay. Sure. Yeah, and then I presume with the month living with them, I've got a bunch of other things in the journal written down.
Yeah.
We learned about some dinosaurs. I probably learned about a variety of new plants. I'm gonna see if I can get any information about how far these woods go in. I guess the geography of these woods, right? Because we've only been in so far a handful of hexes. I'm kind of curious, how deep do these woods go? What's off in the different cardinal directions?
Oh yeah. Well, they'll tell you that the woods will stretch for about another 50 miles or so. And then it's just ocean beyond that. But that the further you go into the woods, the darker it tends to get. and that there are a great many restless spirits in the woods. Although the translation of restless spirit is a little bit less like ghost and a little bit more like a spirit is more like anima in a sense, like a living creature that is restless and wanders and has unusual designs on the world. So maybe like more monstrous, solitary roaming creatures is meant by restless spirit.
Okay. What about to the north and south?
All the same. Yep.
Oh, so we're in like a peninsula then, right? Like,
yes.
and we eventually just hit ocean on every side. Okay.
Yeah, it's ocean all the way around, with the exception of the valley. It's just forest, river, and then ending in the ocean, and that's why they are semi-interested in the valley. Is it's a completely different biome, and it doesn't have the like oppressive forest all around them. It's more open. It's also, there's not as much food in the valley, so they don't really want to live there, but it is a unique and unusual area, which is why they seek a claim to it.
Okay. So I guess Kael will like jot down a rough map. Not a fancy cartography map, but rough idea of where everything is. Like a hex map.
Yeah.
And he'll note down that we're in a peninsula.
You are also privy to this notion that in August, when the god of war comes to the world, that is their time to. That is the opportune moment to something that they want to do with the valley, and the language for it is probably a little bit beyond you. A little bit more of a nuanced, complicated term, but there's something about the valley and August and Bellum, god of war, that there's some event or confluence of these three signs that will cause them to something the valley.
Okay. All right. Oh, one other thing. What are the different tribes like with each other? Like, do they relatively get along? Do they keep their distance and only come together for the sake of like, sort of the things Verasi mandates? How do they like socialize between tribes?
Little to none.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it like animosity between them, or is it just kind of like relative indifference?
Somewhere, yeah, like somewhere in between those two, where the separate tribes feel like other groups that they have no real interest in, and then sometimes they will clash over resources or clash over philosophical viewpoints, at which point they will come to blows. But then when they're not in active conflict, there's not like an ongoing resentment or interest. It's occasional flare-ups between groups that are otherwise left alone. This is the red group, and the one that they seem most concerned with are their immediate neighbors, the blue ogres. And they mention other groups out there, and they all seem to have like a color attached to them. Okay. And you're just dealing with the red right now, and
okay. I'll mention that I originally came looking for the pink skins and try to figure out how far off I was.
They seem confused. They have no idea who the pink skins are.
Okay.
Must be a group they haven't encountered, or a mistranslation at some point or somewhere. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I'll note down that there's another tribe, the blue ogres. Oh, right, I never actually wrote down red ogres. Okay. Yeah, I think that's what we can do for now, like in game, and then we'll just leave, the bulk of the rest of it just kind of in Kael's journal to take home with them. Perfect.
Give me one final charisma check for the impression you leave upon them. That's surprisingly good. They will even escort you to the edge of the woods. In the meantime, they will have asked you all about the valley. Who lives there? What sort of creatures? What sort of food source do you have? How many warriors? What's your structure like? Who's your chieftain?
Yeah, I'll mention that it's relatively open and pastoral, that we don't really have a hard chieftain. The hierarchical structure is a little bit more loose than what they would see in ogre society. There's a lot more like, it's not horizontal, but it's more horizontal than theirs, right? The class structures or I guess not class, but hierarchy is a little less rigid. Yeah, I think he can offer like basics, although he's less. Kael as a person is not particularly relatable or sociable, and I think he understands less about like the cultural aspects of humanity. But I think he is pretty good at recognizing like, oh yeah, this is how we do things. Like this is how we farm. This is how we like irrigate areas. Like he's very good at like the practical applications of things, and less good about understanding like people and why they work the way they do. So I think they probably get more information about like, yeah, you know, we're kind of like structured like this and do these things, and they probably learn because they would know most of those immediate details, and they learn like more in-depth stuff about like, oh, this is how you properly irrigate crops and stuff like that.
Yeah. All right. Yep, they'll take it all. They'll listen to you. They're particularly interested in your food, your agricultural methods, since they have no concept of agriculture other than what they've seen from you. They're definitely purely hunter-gatherers with no
Okay. I'll probably
nature.
show them how to start a garden in that case.
Okay.
Because if they can start like simple garden plots are like that's way easier and less demanding than making like full-fledged agricultural fields. So yeah, I'll probably show them how that works.
All right. They will take a look at it, have some interest, maybe maintain a plot while you're around. We'll see if the plot remains beyond that. And then, once later, you make it back to the valley.
All right.
And, well, is that enough for your paper? You satisfied with this?
Oh, no. But I've got a whole year to do that, you know? Like, I used up a fraction of my time. I still have a number of things to do in the valley itself. But, yeah, that was a good start.
Well, it looks like we're just about at our next break point then, so why don't we take that, and when we come back, we'll see what else we do. See you guys on the other side of the break. Bye-bye.